morning, everyone. I'm Ravi Gupta. I'm CEO and founder of Elets Technomedia Private Limited, and we have been running magazines on the field of e-governance, e-health, and banking and finance, and also in the field of education for last 15, 16 years. And we have been focusing on the ideas of innovation. And today is a time of COVID, when the whole world is uh, trying to handle this pandemic. The disaster is massive and it is impacting not only the global but also the Indian and the every state and the local ecosystems. And in this context, Elets is talking to the senior officials of various states across the country and discussing about the how this COVID-19 situation is impacting your state or your department and how you are dealing with these huge challenges. So today we are honored to have with us Dr. Kalpana Gopalan. She is an IAS officer. She is presently the Additional Chief Secretary, Youth Empowerment and Sports, Government of Karnataka. I welcome Dr. Kalpana Gopalan on this webinar. Thank you for joining. Welcome.
Namaste, Ravi, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Kalpana, before we start getting into the discussions of the COVID-19 and other issues, it will be of interest to our viewers to know about something about your education, your career, and what made you get into the IAS services and your IAS journey till now. If you can talk about it.
Yeah. It's a little hard to summarize 33 years of career into a few words or a few minutes. Well, the honest answer is that I have the head of an IAS officer, the heart of an academic, and the hands of a volunteer. So I have been in the IAS for 33 years now. I worked in sectors like land management, rural development, urban development, power, education. My second hat is that of a public policy scholar. I hold a doctorate and a master's in public policy from IIM Bangalore. I also teach and associate with several educational institutions. So I have a kind of concurrent academic career running, which doesn't give me the bread and butter, but which gives me a lot of satisfaction. My third hat is that of a volunteer. I work for social causes, and I'm associated with institutions like Akshay Patra, Gram, and other NGOs.
Fantastic. Great.
That's about
Kalpana, yeah, that's a fantastic range of work you are doing in both in the academic sector, the NGO sector, and of course in the government sector. I think that gives me a broader perspective about any issue you deal with. So, Dr. Kalpana, if you can talk about your department, what all it does, what all its vision and the scope of work is, and how all that got impacted because of the COVID-19 situation.
Right. As you know, I'm now the Additional Chief Secretary in charge of Youth Empowerment and Sports. Now, so that's actually two wings in one, and we have a third wing, which is the NSS. Now, sports, our main institutional mechanism is the network of about 34 sports hostels, which house about 2,500 sports persons, both boys and girls of different ages, belonging to different sports disciplines. And we give them free training, boarding, lodging. Everything is taken care of. Their academic part, the schools, we run 2 schools, but most other hostel residents, they attend government or private schools outside. That's how the sports infrastructure is. That's the main institutional mechanism. Youth affairs works through a kind of informal association of youth clubs throughout the state. So we have about 3,400 youth clubs which associate with us. Then I am also head of the National Social Service Scheme, the NSS. You also must have been part of NSS in your college.
Yes.
So we have
Yes.
about 5 lakh students now spread over 34 universities and 4 directorates. That includes higher education, PU board, public instruction, sports itself. So all these are these broadly frame the department. Now, with reference to COVID-19 and how we were impacted by COVID-19, see, the first thing, the first priority for me at that time when, the lockdown was imminent and we were, having hints that transportation networks would be affected and, institutions will be closing down. So my first priority in the first few days was to first send the safety of our children. So I just wanted to see that they are safely sent back home or escorted back home. So we started doing this even before the lockdown was officially announced. And if you recall this, the lockdown coincided with the examination time. So we could not send students when examinations were imminent. But everyone else, we sent them in batches home. And by 24th, when the morning when the lockdown was announced, we had only 123 students in our hostels. These were students who were waiting to write the PU exams or the SSLC exams. Then when the education department, most of our decisions are related to the education department's decisions regarding examinations. So when those were postponed in Karnataka, then we sent those children also home and with proper escort to ensure their safety. And I do still remember the last two kids. The one was Akash from Balki in Bidar, and there was a girl from Belgaum called Lakshmi. She's a judo player from Belgaum. So they reached home at dawn on 25th, and then I heaved a sigh of relief. So that was the first priority. Meanwhile, we were also mobilizing the NSS. And on the 21st of March, we had our very first training. Now, NSS is now being kept in reserve. So we had to educate them because their own safety is a priority. So they cannot be sent out into the field or to train others or to educate or advise others unless they themselves are well aware of the implications of COVID-19. So this we started with the training program on the 21st of March, if I recall, by the National Health Mission. Then this was a training for NSS coordinators. So they acted as trainers. So it was a training for trainers. So we first completed this. These are university lecturers and professors. Then we switched to the digital. That was a live training. That was on 21st. Then we switched to the digital mode. Until date, we have trained about 40,000 plus NSS volunteers and officers. And this training we do using the resource of the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. And also NIMHANS, which you remember is located in Bangalore. So the latest training which we did on the 20th was 20th of April was for non-medical volunteers. We started with the NSS volunteers among nurses and doctors, and then we moved on to non-medical, which is what we are doing now. Now, NSS volunteers have also been active in the field where the district administrations have used them. They have worked for awareness creation, food distribution. We do this with the utmost care because their safety, the safety of our volunteers is equally important. And we also are now addressing mental health issues along with NIMHANS in collaboration with NIMHANS. So this is broadly what we did. We also organized a program which will be of interest to you because it was entirely online. This was called, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
This was called Namma Mane Nanna Surakshe. Okay, my home, my safety. And we gathered about 30 sports persons and creative personalities online. And among them were Puneet Rajkumar, Neha Shetty, Rekha Prasad, Javgal Srinath, Pankaj Advani, Ashwini Nachappa, Venkatesh Prasad, Sunil Joshi, and they all joined us online pro bono. and they shared. It started off as an awareness exercise, but what it became was a collective experience, a sharing of that collective experience, that each of them were describing how best they coped, how best they met their own challenges. And I think we had about 40,000, 50,000 views, and it was
Oh,
a really one of a kind program. And this was live streamed on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. So it did quite well actually. So this is how we met the
so
challenge.
you used digital tools for
I need you to be
training.
louder, Ravi.
Yeah.
Bit
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I think you have used the digital tools for online training and also the online awareness through the social media, right? Uh,
Yes,
and
yes,
uh, and and you involve the top sports people to disseminate a lot of information, which is an amazing initiative to engage all the stakeholders in this time of crisis. Great.
yes.
And I want to ask you how you have seen, like in your office or in the whole department, how the usage of IT increased in this situation of COVID-19. If you can talk about and also touch upon the e-governance steps which happened in your department.
See, the our own foray into e-governance techniques and methodology is not new. We have been doing it for some time. So I wouldn't say that we suddenly got a shake-up at this time, because
Yeah.
we've been lucky. Primarily, all file movement is through e-office. So really, there was no difficulty there. I was already working on e-office online. We all our secretariat work is done through e-office, so we just continued the same thing. But we also have a number of other services which, in normal times, also we use e-governance. We most many of our services are under Sakala, which is a given. It's a time-bound thing that you offer a public service or a citizen service within a certain period of time, specified time, and Seva Sindhu, which offers the service online. So affiliation to our youth clubs, reservation of the Kantirava Stadium, reservation of the Yavanika Auditorium, and educational fee reimbursement, sports scholarships, everything is already online. All our tenders are also invited through the e-procurement portal. So completely our tendering is e-tendering only. We also maintain a database of all sports persons who are participating at national level, Olympics, mini Olympics, their complete details, their bank account, their blood group, their performance levels are all digitized, and this is also available for us. We all applications for cash awards and cash prizes are invited online. All cash benefits are transferred online. All service records, salary benefits of the staff, all treasury transactions are done either using the human resource software or the Kazane tool software. So all our financial transactions are mostly online. So barring the disruption caused by the lockdown itself, in the sense that our sports activities, events have been stopped for the present, that we are not conducting any events, and we are not doing the selections right now. We are waiting for this period to pass before we can do the new financial year's selections. Barring that, we have been able to carry on our activities in the normal way, because so many of them are digitized already. I do miss the presence, the touring, because that teaches you a lot. But right now we are not doing any of that. So that's where we stand right now.
So, how are you seeing the changes in the sports ecosystem, which may happen because of the COVID-19 situation, post-COVID, like if it
Post,
impacts the sports?
yeah. Now, see the. Let me begin with e-governance.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a very
but that is also your primary area of interest, and my sense is that digitalization will
yes.
become an essential part of all policies and programs. It will not be the confined to the mandarins of Meitei. So
Yes.
use data, analysis of data, using of digital platforms, that will become integral to all programs, to all departments,
Yes.
various other ministries. So that I think will be the pervasiveness of e-governance, or the scope of it will expand far more rather than very specific initiatives. So I think that will be a very big change. It will also be a very big challenge, because both in terms of connectivity and hardware infrastructure, we'll have to invest much more. So there'll be a lot of work for people like you. Now, looking at the broader political economy, um, I think governments, both in the state, the union government, and perhaps overseas, they will focus more and more on two things. One is in infrastructure creation. Okay, and now that may be economic infrastructure like roads or bridges, because that is necessary to create jobs, and we need to create jobs to provide livelihoods very quickly. And government will also focus on social infrastructure, very obviously health, education, and digitization. So the e-governance or the digitization infrastructure. So that will be one focus. Will it change the way we work? Will it actually change the way governments function or work itself, the world of work itself? I think in some professions it will become transformational, like education, for instance, which academics have had to change their mode of teaching very quickly, and many of them have adapted pretty quickly to the change. So there will be a transformational effect. Others, like governments, will use it to re-engineer their processes, so make it more efficient. Now, it will allow for some flexibility in working, because now we are acclimatized to the WFH, that we know that we can work from home, and that is good in some sense, especially for as a woman. I have seen the difficulty which women in the corporate sector face when they have to return back to work after a break. So it would make it much easier. Like, you avail a maternity leave and then you have to come back to work. WFH makes the transition little easier. And in the little longer run, I'm just throwing out this idea here that I think we are moving towards portability of expertise, that all of us will be freelancers. Now, as a professional, I have a certain skill. I'll peddle my expertise across organizations, and I will not be bound by the rules of HR. This change may be more gradual, but I think that may happen in the long run, that if I have an expertise, I can port it across organizations. So that is something which I see happening in a slightly longer run. Maybe within a decade or so, we would see that. But then I have two important caveats. Now, as an administrator, I was just telling you that I miss the importance of touring and presence. So that presence is so very important, that you have to be there to be able to understand sometimes. So we should not miss that importance of presence itself. Second is that, if we digitize on large scale, but we continue to be casual and shoddy in our way of working. Just imagine in this scenario, samples are taken, swabs are taken, and then sent, but the details of the patient or the location is not clearly indicated. Somebody misses out on that. It's impossible then to work on a containment principle, which is what we are doing now to face COVID. So backroom work becomes very important in when we digitize more and more. And then the converse of it, equally important, is the frontline work. Because now you see that without your doctors and nurses and your ASHA workers, it would not have been possible for us to meet this challenge. So
Yes.
capacity building at all levels, I think that becomes very important. I think is a rather long answer to your
No, but
question, but
very
I've
important,
been thinking of this for a while. Yeah.
very important points were raised. Uh, the one issue about work from home. Now, no one ever believed that in government sector work from home is possible, and right now it is happening. So, are you seeing that post-COVID government will resume the older office way, or it will like imbibe the work from home culture? That's number one. And number two, from the citizens' perspective, do you see that online services for citizens like land records, certificates, uh, etc., approvals, building approvals, all that stuff, like lots of government approvals one has to take. So, do you foresee that those services will become online in a much faster way? So, your views on this topic?
Yeah. Well, I would take a longitudinal view here
Sure.
that I don't think that I'm not seeing COVID as a switch on, switch off kind of thing. I see it more as a continuation of something which has been happening, and we've been seeing this happening in a more gradual way. What COVID has done is it has brought it into stark relief, made it much more immediate and urgent, both for governments and for others, for organizations as a whole, for the world of work as a whole. So, uh, with that understanding, if you take a longitudinal view, e-governance itself in our country, we started, I see broadly three stages, right? First, we began with e-administration, what you were speaking about, land records. You digitize the land records, or all tendering is made, public procurement is done online. So the objective of this kind of e-administration is to make government work more transparent and less cumbersome, more efficient. Then we move to the next stage, which is the e-services stage, right? Like Bangalore one, Karnataka one, where we already do, mind you, that we are already offering citizen services, public services to the citizenry on online platforms, on electronic platforms. Here the focus is citizen friendliness, okay, user friendliness. And thirdly, and that is where we are coming now, when we had already made a beginning with MyGov, for example, where e-participation. So you have the real democratization of e-governance, where people are able to participate as equal citizens and give their own suggestions for the running of government. So broadly, I see these three stages, and I think they will become, as I said, more and more pervasive with time. Two issues here, two important threads which I see are the critical role of government in creating a conducive ecosystem. Now, it's not just enough that government starts using e-governance principles or e-governance techniques or technologies. You also create maybe by encouraging startups, you create an ecosystem where it can become pervasive and convenient. Without the convenience, the user is not going to go in for it.
Yes.
You can't say that I'll work uh, on e-office and let my commissioner sports work on manually. Then it's not going to be seamless. It's going to be more inconvenient. So making it more easy and convenient. And in the private sector, I see targeted innovations, probably where they see a market. So there is a move from an electronic to a more citizen-friendly mode of governance. Now, the thing is that I'm anxious to emphasize that we were already using electronic government, so it's not
Yes.
something we are unfamiliar with, and therefore it became, with surprising ease, we were able to move into uh, get into an e mode of governance. And since we were already familiar, and look at the way pandemic management is being done on a national scale, and this could not have been done if we were starting on a clean slate. So the basic building blocks were already there. Just like that, in government, we transitioned from live meetings and to online platforms. We just moved it, and now we don't even notice anymore. But more importantly, we are collecting a humongous amount of data. In fact, this whole pandemic management is running on the collection and collation of data, because what is the strategy we are following in public health today? We are containment through lockdown, but data tracking on contact tracing for treatment, right? So that runs on a humongous amount of data. Almost every state has risen up to that challenge. Now, collection and collation of data for you as an e-governance professional, for you it may seem something very basic, not a complex activity. But for me as an administrator or for a medical professional, it saves an enormous amount of time, and it facilitates very quick decision making. We are also using e-governance for more complex operations, like we use GIS-based spatial analytics for digital mapping of the containment zones. And we are using with Google, we are locating public food shelters and public health shelters. That is also being done. Another very non-complex use, but which has enormous public policy implications, is the dissemination of data. Now you will be very familiar if you just have to open any state website, and no one can blame that data is not being shared anymore. So even the layman has now become familiar with the various graphs and the
graphs.
So the dissemination of data, which may not be a complex operation per se, technologically, but it has enormous public policy value. So I think the government will go in that mode that, they would use it where it fits best with the way of working, for reaching out, basically. Again, another very long answer to your query.
No, but very important points were mentioning that today, every day, each citizen, each common man is watching graphs, data,
Yes.
right? And think about it, like no one imagined that it can happen. Like right, on
Absolutely.
WhatsApp, on TV, internet, everywhere, we are watching
Everywhere.
data, right? So if we
And
have
having
that,
relief for palpitation also, so the equally appropriate reaction as well. But think about it, that many people who had forgotten graphs after their, they wrote their 10th standard mathematics exam. You see, it's all coming back now. So this is good, because the public needs to be informed. No government or no organization can really function without public cooperation. And so I have long been a votary that government should share as much information, because that will help shape public thinking. And today we are seeing that being done. We are honest with our citizenry, and the citizenry is cooperating to very, very large scale, which is why, fingers crossed, we are, able to cope with this situation and this management of this pandemic.
yes, yes. Madam, one of the impact of the COVID situation is that a lot of awareness about health has happened, and health is related to fitness, and fitness related to sports. So many times, like till now, we have sports in school sports periods in colleges, but many times people have not taken it very seriously. So, do you see that more emphasis on fitness, health will lead to taking sports also more seriously as a health function? Do you see this impact post COVID era?
Post COVID, and also, currently during the lockdown, when lucky people have a little time, I think the first thing of focus is their health. I see here too. You recall that a few months ago, the Prime Minister launched the Fit India campaign.
Yes, yes.
I think that was July, August or so. And August, late August, I think, 29th August, if I remember. And that was a tremendous success. And we did this we launched it alongside the Prime Minister. We, in fact, broadcast his message and in Vidhan Sauda, and we transformed that morning we had transformed the whole of Vidhan Sauda, the side facing the High Court, into a mini play field. And we had, every kind of sports demo in miniature. So you could, build a hockey bat or play some judo, and this was a very big hit, both with politicians, who strayed into this space and said, oh, this is really good. And with the general public also. And we replicated this in during Dasera. If you know that Dasera is a very big event in Karnataka. And in Mysore again, we recreated this mini play field. And you had little kids coming and trying out fencing, for example, and gymnastics. So one thing which we've been working on in my department is that we have tried to make sports accessible. So what has happened in India is that sports has become, because it's so expensive, it is a preserve of the elite. It's not an exclusive preserve, but it is more affordable for the elite. So what we try to do is to make sports more accessible. In fact, our Dasara sports were conducted as a three-tiered activity, beginning from the village to the district and then to the state. That is how we conducted Dasara sports as a people's event. And one more thing is that, I feel that fitness will no longer be confined to gyms, because now people are, little, even at the present time, wary of gyms. So it becomes more a do-it-yourself affair. So you don't need, a space. You just do it anywhere where you can. It will become a more pervasive part of our life itself. And one thing which we are trying to encourage, that we want to spot talent in rural areas, and we are now on a mission to start open gyms in almost every village. It will take quite a long time for us to cover the whole of Karnataka, but we have already begun with a few open gyms. So this is in the open air. It has the basic, you might have seen it in parks, for example.
Yes,
And anyone can go there and exercise. So fitness, like technology, should become part of our daily life, should be so easy and convenient that you just do it. It should not be that you are spending a lot of time commuting somewhere and going to some specialized place, but it's something which you do it for yourself, by yourself. So
fantastic.
that, I think, that will be a change with the COVID. I think it becomes more pervasive.
More focus on sports and more accessible sports, more rural focus also, and access to sports for poor people also. And like as we are talking about this access to the sports facilities, like in a lot of urban areas, especially the sports is confined in gyms or to the private clubs for badminton or tennis, but the access of common person to those facilities, especially the poor, is lower. And there is another reverse trend, that the richer kids don't want to play and the poor wants to play. It's like because they don't have much more entertainment options. So has there been a focus by government of India, as you mentioned about the Fit India movement, as you mentioned about the open gyms? So is there a national program on making sports accessible? Like has some efforts happened in this?
See, um, Fit India is the umbrella program, but we have some special initiatives. Now, our sports hostels cater to every section of society. Now, don't get me wrong. In fact, I am votary of private entry into sports, because it helps investment. It brings expertise. I always believe that government and the private sector should never work in silos. They should go hand in hand. So the academies are doing very good work. They are producing stars, and they are for those who can afford it, they are a very good option, and I am all for it. We cater to the others for whom it may not be so affordable, but who need the same kind of facilities as well. So we pick our children. We are 2,500 sports persons are picked through a series of selections, which takes place from the village upwards. And the school is the unit for us. We go to the schools, or we cluster some schools together and we conduct our trials. So our hostels, in fact, you have a mix of every strata of society. We don't really distinguish between rich and poor there. It's talent that matters, and we make this accessible to all. So also our facilities. Now our Kantirava Stadium, or if you go to the Chamundi Vihar Stadium in Mysore, it is open to the public. There is complete open access. And so if you go in the morning, it's delightful. You have, on the one side, you have this absolutely green astroturf where kids are playing hockey. And then you have a grandmother who is doing her daily morning rounds. So again, it's delightful to watch that every strata, every age is able to benefit from the kind of facilities offered. So the emphasis has always been access. Spotting of talent. We also have scholarships. We do multiple other things. The entire transportation is borne by government. We give a numerous cash awards for sports persons who play in nationals or who have gained credentials nationally or internationally. So we have a series of such initiatives to bring every section of society within that ambit of sports.
Fantastic.
This is what we do.
Great. So I think I have asked a range of questions, and actually some of the questions are actually coming on my WhatsApp. So people have been asking, and they are sending it to me. So I have incorporated my questions in the questions I'm asking you. And
Oh,
yeah. So I have like taking cues from here, because and I also want to ask you about that. You have been in the government sector for a long time, and as an IAS, you have an exposure to a range of departments across the boards, from a local level to the central. I will say various departments in the state level. So, how do you see that a integrated response on the COVID-19 situation? Like right now, each department, either health department, IT department, urban department, rural department, each department is working on the COVID-19 situation, how to handle it. So how are you seeing that collaboration in the government is happening, and how is IT playing a role in government to government collaboration itself? If you can highlight about that.
yeah. Actually, it will be impossible to manage this pandemic without that coordination and collaboration which you are speaking of. And now
Hmm.
this collaboration is not just between IAS officers, it is between medical professionals, administrators, people who are working in the field. So in multiple ways. Now the simplest way in which we are doing this is, of course, meetings. And as I said earlier, we have just switched to the online mode. We've just taken to it. We don't even notice it anymore, but we share ideas, we share immediate decisions to be taken, we put forth problems in the same way as we used to in the live meetings. Only nowadays we do it more often, but that is because
Hmm.
of the situation. Almost every day there is some short discussion, and every 2-3 days we have longer meetings where we are also planning for the future. Remember the exit strategy, how we are going to meet that
Hmm.
when it
Hmm.
comes, because it again cannot be a switch on switch off mode. So that is one thing. So the immediate thing, the useful thing is the online platforms available for meetings. We also
Hmm.
use it greatly for training.
Hmm.
And as I said, our NSS volunteers, we have entirely educated through the online platforms only. Here again, we are collaborating. It is a government department, the NSS, which is collaborating with the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. So the actual training is being done by medical professionals. Now,
Okay.
similarly with NIMANS. NIMANS is also using the online platform to educate people in mental health issues, because loneliness can become an issue, depression can become an issue. They are using their own trained parivartakas, we call them, the
Hmm.
parivartakas speak to the people over telephone, and then they advise them on how to cope with the crisis. So this is one. Another thing which inevitably helps is WhatsApp. So what,
mm,
especially when you are having interstate coordination, not formal or official, but you just get to know
mm,
what is happening in another state. Now my batchmate, let us say in Kerala, says that this is what I am doing there, so what are you
mm,
doing? Or my own counterpart, sports secretary, let us say in Rajasthan, this is what we are doing in this crisis. And so that also, an exchange of ideas in an informal way becomes possible
mm,
through WhatsApp mechanism. So this is, in multiple ways. And no longer can we say that government is hidebound, or because we are using with ease and adaptability,
mm.
we are using the new technologies.
Okay. There is a
We also
question.
know about drones. And, yeah, please go
Sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. I was like
No,
looking at the questions on the screen. You can also actually, if you click the question button, you can see the questions. Although
I'm not
font
able
is
to see the questions, so I think
actually,
you'll have to read it out.
yeah, I will read it. So
Yeah,
there is a question.
I'm not
Uh,
able to see any questions here.
So it's if you like click the question button, uh, 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 you can see the questions. Although the font is small, so it's not easy to see it, but I can see it here. If you like click at the question button. So there is a
I,
question on.
I am pressing that button, but I'm not able to.
Oh, it's not, but I can like
It
see it
doesn't
here.
open. So why don't you just read out?
Yeah, I'm like reading it.
Hmm.
So uh, there is a question on what is your take on impact of investment and employment in Karnataka post COVID-19, and how would the government convert this crisis into an opportunity? So yeah, that's a question.
Okay. See, the lockdown has created disruption. The exit strategy would have to be much more calibrated. It is not going to be a switch on, switch off, right? So it will
Hmm,
take industries, maybe some may get on back on track
hmm,
very quickly. For others, it would take longer. And the reason for this is, even not just the lockdown, but even when we move on into more and more relaxations. And as you know, we have already been moving into a stage of more relaxation. Then some more sectors are relaxed. So
yes,
that's how we are doing it. It's already a very gradual and step by step strategy. So, but
yes,
when you are going with a containment mechanism, the, the supply chain is broken. But we are talking about
hmm,
breaking the chain. So
yes,
breaking the chain of the pandemic is one thing, but in the process, the supply chains are broken, the production chains are broken, the laborers are not where they were. They perhaps moved into a shelter. Some of them managed before the lockdown, some of them went back. So it's going to take some more time for us to get them back on track. We are already working on that. E-passes are being issued. It's at no point did government work come to a complete halt. I'm just speaking not just the health sectors, but even infrastructure, railways. Goods were being transported, essential goods were being transported. So for some, it's going to be very quick. For some, it's going to be to take a little longer. Whether crisis is going to become opportunity, I mean, we generally say about India that that we work best in a crisis. So perhaps we are going to reform best in a crisis as well. As I said,
yes,
many of us are going to be learn to work on digital platforms, and I think one of the very important things which we need to do is to build capacity. Now, if we want to use technology for human outcomes, and which is really very important, then it becomes really capacity building at all levels. Now, I spoke to you about NSS volunteers. If they are going to be able to work on the field, then they should know how to protect themselves and others, how to use technology for quick decision making. This is also something which we need to do. we possibly are going to do. So
Sure.
I think it's going to be hard in the short run, but it is possibly, we are going to use this perhaps to re-engineer our processes in such a way as to facilitate better decision making in the longer run.
Sure. There is a question someone has asked that Karnataka government's youth empowerment and sports department will host an online chess tournament on May 2nd and 3rd to raise funds for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. So uh, he's asking for more details on this. So is something happening online chess tournament? Something like
I'll have to get back to you on this.
Kalpana ji. Achha. Sorry, I could not hear you. And there's a question about how young doctors and paramedics can be helped to stay motivated by the youth department. This is a question someone has asked. And are you able to listen to me, Dr. Kalpana?
Yeah, well, I'm able to see the questions now, but what was the question about doctors and paramedics? I'm just looking for that.
Okay. So the question was that how young doctors and paramedics can be helped to stay motivated by youth department. And there is another
Yeah, let
related
me answer
question.
that question first.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. See, the thing is that, how young doctors and paramedics will, yes, it's not just youth department. It is all of us, right? Uh, on a personal note, my son is a surgeon. He's a resident neurosurgeon, and he's working every day. He's not taken a back seat. What are the ways in which we can motivate all of us, not just the department, but all of us? One is by merely cooperating, right? That is the first thing, because the primary emphasis or focus of a doctor is the patient welfare, and I know that from my own son's experiences. So by cooperating completely, by reporting an illness when it occurs within the family or self, and by following the contact tracing and giving correct information for contact tracing and tracking. So this is one way in which it makes life much easier. The second is appreciation. That I don't think any doctor today is actually going out to work looking for appreciation, but that consciousness that what I'm doing is accepted, is being seen and recognized. I think that will help in a very big way. And I could see that also, as I said, as we were conducting training for the medics among the NSS, there are doctors as well, student doctors. And about a lakh or more doctors have signed up to be volunteers. They may not be in epidemiology per se. May not be virologists. They may be MBBS students, but they were all, they have all signed up. So there is that training and that commitment which the profession already gives them the motivation. What we can do to keep it, to support that by compliance on the one hand and appreciation on the other. I think self-care and the recognition of the other's work. I think that's what.
Very important point you mentioned about appreciation and recognition. The doctors are the warriors who are fighting the battle on the forefront, and they have to be appreciated, which is a very important point which you raised. There's another question again, which is about Jyotish, the bridge between old and the young. Do you have any specific program aimed at engaging with the youth force to sensitize people on lockdown?
Yes, we already do. As I said, that we use the NSS. We started with training of trainers for about 150 college lecturers who are NSS officers and coordinators. This has been followed by continuous online training under the aegis of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. It's a collaborative effort where we are, training the volunteers and both medical and non-medical. And they in turn do the awareness creation. Again, as I said, their own safety is also important for us, which is why we thought that they must first be educated. So with proper care, with the mask, with sanitizing, they are moving around, uh, trying to help people. Mental health issues in collaboration with Nimans, we are addressing. Trained Parivartakas, trained by Nimans, they are counseling people online. So that is something. But I want to, again and again, we come to this, that what can a department do or a government do? What COVID-19 has brought home to me, and what I would like to share, is what I call personal social responsibility. We are all very familiar with corporate social responsibility,
Yes.
CSR, that some organization invests something. This has brought home
Yes.
to us the individual social responsibility, the personal social responsibility. And you saw that coming, that people just came out, they said, I'll help my neighbor, bring the
Mm.
groceries for somebody who cannot go out, or someone else helped in some other way. And look at the number of people who are keeping things going. Our streets are clean, our milk is supplied on time. You want to order food, that is facilitated. Officers are working, taking decisions every day, seeing that life is not made inconvenient and difficult. It's for many it is a pleasant experience and not a siege. For others it can be really difficult. So every section of society is being addressed. So I feel that this has brought home that importance of personal social responsibility. If I am not careful, if I am careless with myself, I'm going to affect not just myself but a host of people around me. And I think that has to come to the fore now, that we all have to recognize our own responsibility as individuals, as persons, and as citizens. And that is how really we can meet not just this pandemic, but any pandemic. And in that sense, though we use that war metaphor, you also mentioned the battle which we are fighting, I would
Mm.
speak of it more as a collective experience. That for one
Mm.
time, not just this class or this caste, not just this group of people, not just this country, but the whole world is coming together in one collective experience. So I hope we come through better for it.
Sure. I think we will take the last question here. There is a question by Sudhir. He has asked that what would be the government's approach and plans on the possible resurfacing of the corona pandemic if the corona
Yeah.
strikes again?
Yeah. See, the thing is, we have not really let off, and I don't think it's going to be very, very long months in which we are going to let off. See, our exit strategy from the economic point of view. We are very, very gradually going, not even sector by sector, but small activities within that sector. We first said essential goods. A few days ago, non-essential goods. So we are just moving, in actually baby steps, towards an exit strategy. That is from the economic point of view. From the health point of view, we are continuing with our containment strategy. There has not been an announcement of complete removal of lockdown. Now we are demarcating the zones. Every day I get a map that you have which are the green zones, which are the red zones, which are the orange and the yellow zones, and it is going to be calibrated. So let us get used to the idea that this pandemic may, God forbid, but it still may stay with us for quite a long time, much longer than, say, H1N1 or SARS stayed with us. It's going to stay longer. So we are not going to come out of the public health focus in a hurry. But what I see is, renewed commitment to health infrastructure and capacity building, both within the health sector health related outside the health sector. That is what I see in the longer run.
I think I will add another question, which is I think someone has asked here. He asking about the life and the livelihood. How to make the balance between the situation, which is the current situation. If we are extending lockdown, there is a livelihood issue. So, if you have any suggestions on this.
Yeah, this is the question which every administrator, every leader, and every citizen today is grappling with. And you can you sacrifice one for the other? Can you quantify this in any way? Now, what we have done is that I think it's summarized by the Prime Minister very well when he said first that "Jaan hai to jahan hai," or then the next step was "Jaan bhi aur jahan bhi." So we started with that complete or near complete lockdown when we put the health and the safety of our citizens paramount. And then uh, now remember that we did containment there also, because we have labor from different states who are migrating into other states and working there. So the containment primarily worked for them. We opened public health shelters where food is provided. Now, as we gradually relax, we are relaxing it a little by little, sector, activity by activity, not even sector by sector. There are geography by geography, a taluka, a district. Some are green, some activities, a greater number of activities go on. Restrictions are little relaxed in those cases. So that this constant balance or the tightrope which we are walking is lives and livelihoods. And within the restrictions, within the resources available, we are trying to keep the safety of our people and hunger at bay. So on one side is the disease at bay, on the other side hunger at bay. So I think it's a question we are grappling with to the best of our ability. uh, all of us have a role to play, maybe by just helping somebody who's near us, the community around us. I think each of us have that personal social responsibility.
Thank you for highlighting again about the personal social responsibility, which I think is a new word which we all have to look in the COVID situation. Uh, and I want to thank Dr. Kalpana for joining us here. And just before we end this, I will request you to talk about your association with Elets and your suggestions on our work. Thank you, Dr. Kalpana.
I I am a long time admirer, I have to admit, because I admire both your versatility and your agility. And it's not just that you are providing a digital platform. That is your expertise, yes, but it's not just that. You provide very thoughtful and well curated content, and therefore the meeting of minds that a digital platform can facilitate, it's not always possible live, but you are facilitating meetings of minds, and that I think is an intellectual gift that you have given me and all of us. And I'm deeply
Thank you.
appreciative of that. And one more nice thing to say, that I think you are either about to start or you have already started an Elets Academy.
Yes,
So
yes,
capacity
yes. We are
building
doing
is my
online.
favorite subject. So I think a big
Yes.
thank you for that as well. Yeah. So,
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for the encouragement. We are so much happy to have you. And actually, I learned so much from this interaction with you. Amazing, inspiring, and motivating. Thank you, Dr. Gopalan, for joining us. We are honored to have you with us. Thank you. Namaskar, and thank you
thank you so much
so
for
much.
having me. Stay safe.
Thank you.